Chris Lewis was born in 1968 in Georgetown, Guyana, a place far removed from the bright lights of international cricket. From an early age, he faced the complexities of life, a bustling household, the pressures of relocation, and the struggle to find his place in a new world. When his family moved to London, these challenges intensified. The streets were unfamiliar, opportunities scarce, and yet, amidst this upheaval, a young Chris discovered a talent that would define his future. Cricket became his refuge, a way to channel energy, ambition, and raw skill. Even as a boy, his abilities were evident. Coaches noticed the natural rhythm in his bowling, the confident swing of his bat, and the sharp instinct in the field. These early glimpses of brilliance earned him a place in local leagues and, eventually, the attention of county selectors. At Leicestershire, he stepped into a professional arena, facing seasoned players and high expectations. Each match tested not only his skill, but his resilience, shaping a young man determined to rise above his circumstances. Chris often reflected on those early days with a mix of pride and nostalgia, recalling how cricket offered him both escape and purpose. "It was the only place I felt I truly belonged," he would say, hinting at the passion and promise that would soon thrust him into the spotlight of English cricket. Chris Lewis's ascent to the international stage began in 1990, a year that would change the trajectory of his life. Making both his one-day international and test debuts, he stepped onto the field carrying the hopes of a nation eager for a new hero. The excitement was palpable, but so was the pressure. England had seen many promising talents, yet few combined raw athleticism with the unpredictability that Lewis brought to the game. From the very start, he made an impression. His bowling carried a deceptive pace, and he struck with uncanny precision, claiming wickets that left seasoned batsmen reeling. But it wasn't just his bowling that captured attention. Lewis had a knack for turning ordinary matches into moments of drama. A powerful strike with the bat, a daring run, or a catch that seemed impossible. He embodied a spirit that reminded fans of the legendary all-rounders who had come before him. The pinnacle of his early career came in the 1992 Cricket World Cup. Lewis played with a fearless energy, often stepping up in critical moments when the team needed it most. He took wickets at crucial junctures, disrupting the rhythm of opponents, and his lower-order batting occasionally rescued England from precarious situations. These performances didn't go unnoticed. Awards and accolades followed, cementing his reputation as one of England's most exciting talents. Yet, behind the accolades lay a restless ambition, a desire to prove himself at every opportunity. Chris himself reflected on those days with mixed emotions, admitting, "I felt unstoppable, but there was always this weight, a fear of not living up to expectations." It was this combination of talent, determination, and vulnerability that made him such a compelling figure. Fans adored his flair, teammates respected his intensity, and critics watched with cautious fascination, sensing both brilliance and unpredictability. The stage was set for greatness, but as history would show, the same traits that propelled him to fame would later expose him to temptation, risk, and choices that would change his life forever. Chris Lewis was more than just a cricketer. He was a spectacle, a force that fans couldn't ignore, and commentators often struggled to define. On the field, he played with an intensity that could shift the momentum of a match in an instant. As a lower-order batsman, he had the ability to turn the game with a single powerful swing, often rescuing England from precarious positions. His fast medium bowling added another layer to his unpredictability, combining raw pace with clever variations that troubled even the most experienced batsmen. But it wasn't just his cricketing skills that captured attention. Lewis's personality was impossible to overlook. He was bold, flamboyant, and often unfiltered, a combination that made him both admired and criticized. The media quickly seized on his eccentricities, coining nicknames like the Prat without a hat to highlight his unconventional style and sometimes chaotic approach to the game. These labels, though mocking, reflected the public's fascination with a player who refused to blend into the background. Despite his talent, Lewis was seen as inconsistent. Spectators marveled at moments of brilliance, yet groaned at lapses in concentration or unforced errors. Teammates sometimes struggled to predict his next move, caught between admiration for his audacity and frustration at his unpredictability. Off the field, his lifestyle mirrored the contradictions seen in his cricket. He could be charming and approachable one day, brash and controversial the next. This duality made him a media magnet, a player who generated headlines as often for his antics as for his performances. Yet there was a method beneath the chaos. Lewis's audacity often worked in his favor, unsettling opponents and creating opportunities that a more cautious player might never attempt. He thrived on pressure, but that same daring nature occasionally led to misjudgments that cost matches. In the public eye, he became a symbol of cricket's glamour and its pitfalls, a reminder that brilliance often comes paired with volatility. Reflecting on his career, Lewis admitted, "I knew I had the talent, but sometimes I let my emotions take over. It was exciting, but risky." This mixture of skill, charisma, and unpredictability defined Chris Lewis, cementing his status as one of England's most colorful, controversial, and unforgettable cricketers. Chris Lewis's international career was a roller coaster, a blend of brilliant peaks and frustrating valleys. On the bright side, he achieved feats few could match. In Madras, he scored a memorable century, an innings that showcased his raw power and fearless approach with the bat. It was a performance that had critics nodding in reluctant admiration, a reminder that when Lewis was on form, he could dominate any attack. With the ball, his 6 for 111 against the West Indies in a test match highlighted his ability to dismantle even the strongest lineups, combining pace and cunning with uncanny precision. Yet, for every high, there were lows that tempered the celebration. Consistency eluded him. Despite flashes of brilliance, he was often dropped from the team, recalled only to face the same struggle of meeting expectations. Injuries added to the challenge, sidelining him at crucial moments and disrupting his rhythm. The Ashes series proved particularly testing, as England's hopes rested heavily on his contributions, yet his unpredictability sometimes let the side down. Critics and fans alike were divided. Some saw a mercurial talent capable of match-winning heroics, while others saw a player who could not harness his potential fully. Lewis himself reflected, "I became afraid of what the future held. I knew I had the skill, but keeping it consistent was another matter." His final appearances in international cricket were a mix of nostalgia and unfulfilled promise, a chapter that underscored both the highs he achieved and the struggles he could never quite escape. Ultimately, Chris Lewis's international career remains a story of dazzling talent, intertwined with the harsh realities of elite sport, a journey defined as much by what could have been as by what was. Outside the glare of international cricket, Chris Lewis carved a significant mark in domestic cricket, demonstrating both skill and resilience. His county career spanned stints with Nottinghamshire, Surrey, and Leicestershire, where he became known not just for his explosive batting and reliable bowling, but also for his ability to influence matches at crucial moments. It was in these domestic arenas that Lewis often found the consistency that eluded him on the international stage, showcasing his all-round capabilities game after game. His contributions helped secure major victories, including the Benson and Hedges Cup and key county championship titles. These achievements reinforced his reputation as a player capable of turning matches around, earning respect from teammates and opponents alike. Yet, even as his domestic career flourished, the shadow of inconsistency lingered, a reminder of the fine line between brilliance and disappointment that marked his journey. Later in his career, Lewis sought to embrace the evolving game. He attempted a 2020 comeback, demonstrating both his enduring passion for cricket and his willingness to adapt to new formats. Beyond playing, he took on coaching roles, sharing his experience and mentoring younger players, passing on the lessons learned from a career filled with highs and lows. These domestic chapters reflect a man still deeply connected to the game, striving for redemption and meaning within the sport he loved. even as the world watched his personal challenges unfold. Chris Lewis's life took a shocking turn in 2008, a chapter that would overshadow even his most celebrated cricketing achievements. The arrest came as a thunderbolt. Lewis was caught attempting to smuggle 3.37 kilograms of cocaine, a crime that stunned fans and fellow cricketers alike. The very man who had once thrilled crowds at Lord's, who had been England's cricketing hope, now faced the full weight of the law. How could a life built on talent and public admiration lead to such a drastic fall? The legal proceedings unfolded with intense scrutiny. Lewis's co-accused, Chad Kernan, was implicated alongside him, and the trial became a media spectacle. Court documents revealed the complexities of the case, detailing how both men were allegedly involved in the trafficking operation. Despite Lewis's attempts to explain his involvement, the evidence presented painted a stark picture. The courtroom became a stage for judgment, both legal and moral, as the public watched in disbelief. Media reaction was swift and unforgiving. Headlines captured the shock and disappointment of a nation, framing the fall of a cricketing hero as a cautionary tale of temptation and poor choices. Fans expressed disbelief, some struggling to reconcile the man who had once lifted trophies with someone now branded a criminal. In December 2008, the sentence was delivered. Lewis would spend 6 years behind bars, a fraction of the 13-year term he had faced, yet long enough to mark a permanent rupture in his personal and professional life. In interviews and reflections following the conviction, Lewis admitted to fear and uncertainty. "I became afraid of what the future held," he confessed, a statement that resonated with anyone who has faced sudden downfall. The imprisonment period forced him to confront his choices, regrets, and the consequences of actions that had once seemed manageable. This fall from grace was dramatic, painful, and irreversible in the public eye, yet it also marked the beginning of a long, reflective journey, a period that would eventually lead him toward redemption, introspection, and a reconsideration of what truly mattered in his life. Life behind bars was a stark contrast to the cheers of the stadium. For Chris Lewis, prison was not just a physical confinement, but an emotional and psychological trial. The routines, the isolation, and the constant awareness of public judgment weighed heavily on him. Every day was a reminder of the choices that had led him there, and the once vibrant all-rounder faced an inner struggle that tested his resilience. How does someone accustomed to fame and freedom adjust to a life stripped of both? The mental challenges were relentless. Lewis confronted feelings of fear, shame, and regret, grappling with the reality that his actions had consequences far beyond himself. He admitted to moments of despair, reflecting, "I became afraid of what the future held." The walls of the prison were not just barriers of stone and steel. They were mirrors forcing him to face the outcomes of poor decisions. Each day became an opportunity for reflection, forcing him to examine the temptations, pressures, and misjudgments that had shaped his downfall. Yet within this harsh environment, a process of personal reckoning emerged. Lewis began to confront his own responsibility, acknowledging that external circumstances could not excuse his choices. Self-blame became a catalyst for growth, rather than mere despair. He reconsidered not just his actions, but the person he had been: impulsive, inconsistent, and sometimes reckless. This introspection gradually reshaped his understanding of identity, responsibility, and the fragile nature of trust, both in others and in oneself. The prison experience also offered time to reflect on relationships, reputation, and the fleeting nature of fame. Lewis recognized how easily admiration could turn to disappointment, and how choices fueled by fear or desire could destroy what once seemed secure. In this quiet, confining space, he began to rebuild an understanding of who he was beyond cricket, beyond headlines, and beyond public perception. The journey was painful, often lonely, but it marked the beginning of a transformation, a careful, deliberate attempt to reconcile past mistakes with a desire to emerge wiser and more grounded. Ultimately, prison taught Lewis that redemption was not given. It had to be earned through introspection, acceptance, and tangible change. The experience forced him to confront the man he had become and the man he hoped to be. Through hardship, he developed a deeper awareness of the consequences of his actions, the responsibilities that come with freedom, and the enduring importance of integrity. The lessons of confinement left an indelible mark, shaping the later chapters of his life with humility, reflection, and a commitment to never repeat the mistakes that had brought him to this point. Freedom brought relief, but also the weight of starting over. In 2015, Chris Lewis walked out of prison determined to rebuild a life that had once spiraled out of control. The challenges were immense. Public opinion had turned sharply against him, and the shadow of his criminal conviction loomed over every interaction. Yet Lewis faced these obstacles with a quiet resolve. How do you regain trust when the world remembers only your mistakes? How do you redefine yourself after losing everything? He began by reconnecting with the sport that had once defined him, channeling his experience into guiding others. Through the Professional Cricketers Association, Lewis became a mentor, helping young players navigate the pressures of professional sport. His story was a cautionary tale, but also a message of resilience, that mistakes, no matter how grave, could be a source of learning if acknowledged and addressed. He emphasized responsibility, discipline, and self-awareness, sharing candid reflections from his own rise and fall. Lewis also reached beyond the cricket field, engaging in motivational speaking and coaching. He spoke openly about the consequences of poor decisions, the seductive pull of temptation, and the importance of staying grounded. His autobiography, Crazy: My Road to Redemption, offered a personal account of his journey, blending honesty with insight. Through these efforts, he transformed public perception, showing that redemption is earned through accountability, hard work, and a commitment to making amends. The process of rehabilitation was not only external, but deeply personal. Lewis confronted lingering doubts, self-criticism, and the challenge of forgiving himself. Each interaction, each mentoring session, and each public engagement reinforced a renewed sense of purpose. He learned that redemption was not about erasing the past, but integrating it into a wiser, more reflective identity. By embracing transparency and humility, he gradually reshaped his life and influence, proving that even those who stumble most publicly can reclaim dignity and meaning. Ultimately, Lewis's post-prison journey highlighted the transformative power of reflection, perseverance, and service. From mentoring young cricketers to sharing his story on stages and in print, he worked tirelessly to turn lessons learned into guidance for others. The once troubled star had forged a path that combined personal growth, social contribution, and a renewed connection to the game he loved. His story, marked by downfall and recovery, serves as a testament to the human capacity for resilience, accountability, and the pursuit of redemption. Chris Lewis's story does not end with his redemption. It extends into a broader reflection on cricket, society, and personal responsibility. As one of the prominent Afro-Caribbean players in English cricket, Lewis represented more than just talent on the field. His achievements, struggles, and public missteps highlighted the challenges faced by players navigating cultural identity, media scrutiny, and the high expectations of professional sport. He became both a symbol of possibility and a reminder of vulnerability, showing that even exceptional skill cannot shield one from the pressures and temptations that accompany fame. Through interviews and his own reflections, Lewis emphasized the systemic issues in professional cricket: the uneven support for young players, the intense focus on performance over well-being, and the subtle barriers that minority athletes often encounter. "I became afraid of what the future held," he once admitted, reflecting on his early uncertainty and the choices that led him astray. His honesty sheds light not only on his personal failings, but also on an environment where talent alone is insufficient to guarantee guidance, stability, and ethical decision-making. Lewis's legacy is layered. On one hand, he is celebrated for his extraordinary athletic feats, his dynamic all-rounder skills, and his contributions to county and international cricket. On the other hand, his public fall serves as a stark cautionary tale about the perils of fame and the fragility of personal judgment. He openly discusses the mistakes that cost him his reputation, his freedom, and years of his life, urging younger athletes to learn from his experience rather than repeat it. The story underscores that talent must be paired with discipline, self-awareness, and the support of a responsible network to prevent even the brightest stars from burning out too quickly. In mentoring, speaking, and writing, Lewis transformed his mistakes into lessons for others. He stressed the importance of resilience, accountability, and reflection, encouraging young players to recognize the weight of their decisions and the impact they have both on and off the field. His autobiography, Crazy: My Road to Redemption, became more than a personal memoir. It became a blueprint for understanding the human side of professional sports, where pressures are relentless and guidance is not always present. Lewis's insights challenge conventional narratives of success by highlighting the intersection of opportunity, vulnerability, and the choices that define a life. Ultimately, Chris Lewis's legacy lies in the balance of brilliance and caution. His life story speaks to the Afro-Caribbean cricket community in England, illustrating both the possibilities of achievement and the risks of neglecting personal growth and ethical responsibility. It is a reminder that every athlete, regardless of skill, must navigate a complex landscape of expectation, identity, and temptation. By sharing his journey with unflinching honesty, Lewis ensures that his story is not only about triumphs and failures, but also about guidance, reflection, and the enduring potential for redemption. His tale resonates as a lesson for all who pursue excellence, that greatness is measured not solely by talent, but by the wisdom to manage it wisely and the courage to face the consequences of one's choices. If you've been captivated by the highs and lows, the triumphs and tragedies of the story you just witnessed, don't let it end here. Dive deeper, explore further, and uncover the untold truths that shaped the lives behind the headlines. Every documentary we create is crafted to take you inside the world of extraordinary events, real people, and gripping moments that history books often leave behind. Subscribe now to join a community of viewers who demand more than just entertainment. They crave understanding, insight, and the full story. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a new documentary that challenges your perspective, exposes hidden realities, and keeps you on the edge of your seat. Share this documentary with friends, family, and fellow truth seekers. Start the conversation, spark debate, and let others experience the emotional journey, suspense, and revelations that unfold in every episode. Your support allows us to dig deeper, research further, and bring even more compelling stories from the real world straight to your screen. Click subscribe, stay curious, and become part of a community that values truth, storytelling, and the lessons only real-life events can teach. The next story is waiting. Will you be there to see it unfold?